Hey everybody, it's Tanya. Welcome back to my garden. It is a frigid Thanksgiving day here in Zone 5B/6, just outside of Chicago, and I am doing my last harvest of the season. I just picked these beets, and I want to show you how nicely formed these are and how well preserved these are. I'll just grab a big one for an example. Here you can see the beet is really nicely preserved. The root is well intact, and the greens are still very nice and green. So I wanted to pick these today. I actually could have left them in the ground a little bit longer, but I wanted to pick these today because our temperatures are dropping very quickly into the teens, low teens next week. And I want to actually preserve some of the greens. We use these in smoothies and they are edible, quite flavorful, and you can saute these the same way you would saute spinach, for example. So that's why I went ahead and harvested all of these now. And to process these, one would simply cut off the root tips and then cut off the greens. I simply fold the greens and put them in a freezer bag. I can also vacuum seal them if I want to preserve them for a longer period of time, and stick them in my freezer, and then they're ready to go whenever I need them. The nice thing about leaving them in the ground for a longer period, if you don't want to harvest the greens, is that the ground actually acts as a natural refrigerator or preserver, because these temperatures are very cold, and in some cases, like with carrots, for example, the sugars crystallize and the vegetable becomes even sweeter, which is great. So in this case, I'll go ahead and process all of these. I wanted to show you also the Swiss chard I just picked. This is the last of my Swiss chard. This is also an extremely hardy green that you can saute the same way you would saute spinach, put it in smoothies. It's a very flavorful green, and it kind of also takes on the flavor of whatever dish you're preparing, so it's very versatile. And it withstands extreme heat temperatures as well as extreme cold. So I plant this in mass, oftentimes in favor of spinach, just because I find spinach to be a little bit finicky in our area, especially when it gets very hot and humid. So this Swiss chard here is very bountiful. I'll bring the harvest a bit closer. You can see what a great harvest this is. And the leaves are just a great shade, different colors. So this is just one plant that I harvested from. And I went ahead and picked a few of my carrots, and we can actually do the rest of the carrots together. Carrots are really great. The greens are also edible. I will go ahead and freeze these. These are excellent chopped up in soups or any sauteed dish. And the carrots preserve for a long period of time. I've eat the carrots raw, just as they are. They do hold for quite a bit of time. And then I also pressure can these in my canner to extend out my crop for months to come, deep into February and March, when there's really not a lot of fresh produce available. So let's go ahead and harvest the rest of the carrots, and then we'll take a look at everything we have. Here are the last of the carrots, and not many left, but it will be enough, and every little bit adds up, right? So I'm going to go ahead and harvest these, and we will see what we get. It's a pretty nice shape. Our soil tends to be somewhat compacted and clay, so the carrots, I struggle with getting them to be the size that I would like them to be. This is a good size. And I will go ahead and let these soak in some water inside so that the dirt comes off. And you can see this is a great little harvest here already, just in this small amount. And I may actually leave the rest of the carrots in there just so I can have access to them in a few weeks or in a month, and that way I don't have to worry about processing them. These are plenty for the next week or so. We'll cut these up and enjoy them. So all in all, I think this is a really good harvest. I am going to show how I prepare these beets. I'm going to go ahead and do this outside. I find it's less messy and it's one less thing I have to do inside. So I simply clip off the roots this way, and this way the beet is cleaned up. Like so. And there are a few ways to eat and cook and eat the beets. You can either roast them immediately upon harvest. They do store for quite some time in the refrigerator for several weeks, if not a month. I also can beets in a pressure canner, so that way I can, again, access fresh food item months down the road, deep into winter when we really don't have any fresh produce available to us. And that also works really nicely. There are many different methods to canning beets. You can either cold bath them or without a pressure canner with vinegar, and that creates more of a pickled beet, or you can pressure can the beet under a much higher pressure than boiling without any vinegar if you prefer just to have a plain beet taste, which is my preference. So there's a few different ways to prepare and eat that. All right, so these beets are ready to go. And again, this green is edible, so I will just cut that off inside and stick it in the freezer. So all in all, a very nice harvest that I'm very happy with. A lot of food for end of November when the temperatures are really dropping. Now that I've harvested my vegetables, I want to go ahead and put all of these leaves into my garden beds and essentially put them to bed for the winter. The leaves offer so much nutrients and break down and really create a nutrient-rich, dense soil. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be raking up these leaves, putting them on a tarp, and bringing them to my garden beds. I find this is a really easy way to transport the leaves. Instead of having to put them in bags, I simply put it on a tarp and drag it along. Okay, so I've got my tarp laid out. Let's get after this. I am going to leave leaves around the base of these plants to protect them from the harsh coldness and to also fertilize the soil around these plants. These are fairly new plants, and I really want them to have a healthy base and healthy soil as they become established. And here we have the leaves, just a small amount, but this is a lot. I'm going to now drag these over into the garden beds, and we'll see how far it takes us. So this one garden bed has already been cleared of all crops. The drip lines have been moved. And now I want to pile the leaves on there, again, just to fertilize the soil, offer it nutrients, and replenish it to prepare it for the next season. then what I like to do, I have this large piece of cardboard. I'm going to place this on top. This does two things. It prevents the leaves from blowing away, and secondly, it also prevents weeds from cropping up should the temperatures warm up, or in the springtime, if I don't have time to get out here, the weeds don't have a chance to take root. So the cardboard really prevents that from happening. And I have landscape staples that I use to keep the cardboard in place. It doesn't look the best, but honestly, in winter, this is typically covered in snow, so I'm okay with that. There, so now this is nice and securely in place, and I'll go ahead and finish the rest of the garden beds. Here is the Swiss chard plant I just harvested off of. You can see it still has a few leaves on there. Look at that rich red color. It is just such a beautiful plant. I will go ahead and let this compost right in place. It will break down and feed the soil. Now here, I've already gone ahead and laid down this cardboard ahead of time. We had such mild temperatures. I did not want weeds to crop up since my last crop was pulled. So I'm actually going to just lift this up, set it to the side, and then I'll put the leaves down and place this over. And you can see no weeds here, which is fantastic. So this is a good example of the weeds that start to crop up underneath the cardboard. And you can see they're really making a go for it. And over there, more have cropped up. This was covered in complete cardboard. So it really does the job in terms of weed prevention. It's less work that I have to do. And I will go ahead and put the leaves right on top of this and then put the cardboard back on top. It was a very productive day today. We got our beds ready for winter and had a bountiful November harvest. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you get a chance to get out into your garden today. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.